Do, do, do.
Welcome to another episode of The Couch Show. It's
Welcome
been a
back.
while. It feels good to be back.
It does feel good to be back. I missed it.
Yeah, guys, we've missed you.
World's been going all over the place. But you know what?
I'm sure it has been.
This weekend was one of my favorite weekends. I love Thanksgiving. I just love
Okay.
it. I don't know. It's like not the pressure of Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of like having to buy and getting all caught up in all that stuff, but just being grateful for what you got, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely like that. And yeah.
Yeah,
Not to
so
hijack the intro, but we should go right
all
into it,
the
right?
craziness that's going on in the world in the last week, I haven't heard a peep about it because we haven't spoken. That's it.
Neither have I. You know why?
You're my information channel.
Because I've been really stuck to the World Cup, and I just been watching the World Cup.
Okay.
Like every day for the last few days, there's been like 4 games a day that I've been watching with my kids and just getting into the World Cup, and I'm like loving it. And of course, you know, the holidays came and left, and I'm just like not really caring about that. I kind of turning all that stuff off. And like to be honest, like I don't know, I've been in a funk because behind the scenes, like we're getting the copyright strikes and we're trying to do something with our show and it's really like hindering us. And so I was like, you know what? If this is meant to be, maybe we just got to recalibrate and just continue with what we wanted to do, which was just bring that message of positivity out, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of got that over the weekend because, I was with friends and family, right? And just hearing like some of my friends, we were in conversation and just like, I don't know, it was weird because it was like we were having a conversation as far as like, and it's crazy because it goes with today's topic in a way. And we were having a conversation in the sense that, she was making the argument that depending on your environment, you're somewhat doomed in your outlook in life as far as like what you could become. And like it goes back to that whole argument of the privileged, right? And I was like, I don't believe in that way. I don't see life like that. I was like, look at me, look at you. Like we got out of that scenario, right? And it was because of our persistence, our drive to want to get out of that scenario that we achieved it, right?
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I know I've been blessed, but I don't see myself like I don't think I did something. I did anything great, right? I feel like I'm moderately, of smarts here, right? Like if I could do it, anybody else could do it, right?
Right.
And so I'm like,
Right. That's the age-old saying.
Right. And so like, and it's weird because I looked at her and I'm like, man, like at one point in the conversation, I just had that epiphany that she just has a very pessimistic way of looking at life. And I even told her, I was like, how do you see this glass? Because apparently you see the glass half empty and I see it half full. And she's like, so you're telling me you could be a rocket scientist? And I was like, if I had the desire and the drive to be a rocket scientist, yeah, because I would put in the hard work, I would put in that dedication, and I would, sure enough, make rockets. But I don't want to do that. Like, I'll be clear, I don't want to do that. But I do believe that if I like one day I woke up and said I wanted to do that, I would.
Yeah, you just study, you do some studying, and you achieve your dreams. Yeah.
Right. And so she was like, no, she could never do that. And I was like, I think you could. I think you're very smart, and I think you could if you wanted to. And I think that's just a narrative in your head. You're telling yourself no before somebody else tells you no.
Right.
And
and that's just one of the hurdles that we have to overcome in life. It's something that for her, she was ingrained at a young age that, you can only reach for so much.
Yeah.
Sounds like she doesn't have that whole like, oh, you could be anything kind of mentality.
Right. And she was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna tell my kids that they could." And I'm like, "Why don't you tell your kids that?" Like, I
Hmm.
love telling my kids like they could be whatever they want. Like, I love seeing their imagination. Like, we were like, I was having a conversation with my kids, and they were talking about, like, I love dreaming. I love dreams, but it's sad that you can't remember your dreams. And I was
Hmm.
like, "What are you talking about?" I remember, and I was just telling them a dream that I recently had, right? And so
Hmm.
then they were like, "Oh yeah, there was this one dream," and I don't know if they were actually telling me their dreams or they were just lighting up because it was just a chance for them to just be like imagination and just say whatever's on their head. And
Right.
one of them told me that they were like flying a dragon and they had to fight a robotic. Or no, they saw a dragon fighting a robotic T-Rex, and then he took out a bazooka and blew them both up. And I was like, okay, so be it. But you know what? This is where, like, just that smile and just that lighting up, and like seeing people when they talk about their dreams and their aspirations and what they want to do in life, seeing that glow. I mean, that's infectious, right?
Hmm.
And it's like I feel like society has lost that
Right.
desire and that want to just have that, that childful, youthful, aspirations to be whatever they want to be, right?
And I think it's kind of like a two-sided coin because in our society, we're saying like, yeah, we're not really people are feeling like they can't, dream anymore. But on the
Right.
same token, at the same token, um, there are I have no idea what the hell I was gonna say.
Go ahead, go with it, go with it. I was like ready. I'm like
What
on
was
the
I gonna
edge
say?
of
It
it.
was
Go
so
with
good.
it.
But
Go with
people,
it.
like all right, so we tell people that they could be anything they want to be. And yes,
Right.
you can. But you also have to think about the fact that it's not just the perseverance of proving it to the world, because you do have those naysayers. And it's like your friend
Hmm.
said, the people around you, they are either your biggest cheerleaders or your very first no. They're the first
Yeah.
ones that are going to tell you none of your ideas are going to work.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of like push through that societal pressure. And then you also have to battle the fact that, that now in our society, everyone's like, oh, consuming is bad. And, you're supposed to become minimalist now. That's like the in thing. Let's be minimalist and
It
let's
is,
less.
but people are still shopping more because they are looking for that materialistic thing to compensate for what they're lacking inside.
Mm-hmm.
Like the more I see people, the more I see the facade is falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's just me internally with my own like internal journey, on that whole spiritual voyage that I'm going on. But I don't know if it's more like I see more people are just like they're showing themselves
Mm-hmm.
and they're showing that they just have that lack of confidence and then they all embody that insecurity. Because like she went into detail. She even told me like I was like, yo, you went to a better school than I did. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, you went. I was like,
Like an Ivy
you
League,
know,
right?
yeah, right. You went to a better school than me. You're like you're living the dream right here. Like, look at your house. Your house is way bigger than my house.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was just like, but I feel like she doesn't like I'm like a little like I was like, look, your life could have been you're 100% right. Your life could have been better.
Mm-hmm.
But your life could have also been worse.
Yes.
And it's like people don't see that. Like they don't acknowledge that. They don't like, I think the only thing people really gravitate towards is how much their life could be so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And like she was like, you mean to tell me that the janitor who was a janitor for 20 years, you're gonna berate him and be like, oh, that it's his fault that he was a janitor? And I'm like, yes, because at
That's the
some
path
point in
he
his
stayed on.
yeah, at some point in his life, he got complacent.
Mm-hmm.
He got complacent and he just gave up. And look, it hurts me. It hurts me to say that because to think that his dreams and aspirations and that little kid that was him, when what he wanted to be, he just settled. But
Mm-hmm.
the reality is he settled, right? He didn't want to keep putting in that work to get him to where he wanted to be. And so now is he going to live his life bitter at the next guy next door because he put in the work?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, that's the society we're living in. And I don't want that. I don't want that from anybody. Because like I said, I listen, being a kid who grew up in the Bronx, right? We then move upstate, and it was a culture shock because it was so dark as hell. Moving upstate at the third grade, having mediocre grades, and joining the Marines, putting my life on the line, and then being here at where I'm at. It's not like I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but it's like, damn, like I was blessed,
Mhm.
but we're all blessed because we got this and we got this, and it's like as long as you have that heart and that drive, humans can persevere in like in ways that we look we surprise ourselves at times, right?
Absolutely.
The will and the drive. And I told her that I was like, what happens if, like, let's say you were in the Walking Dead scenario, right?
Hmm.
And she was like, yeah, you know the show The Walking Dead, right?
Okay.
I was like, what happens if you one of your kids got sick in that scenario? And
Hmm.
there was books. You went to by chance, you walked into, let's say there was like a university or a hospital, and you walked in, there was the books on how to do this surgery.
Hmm.
You're gonna tell me you're not gonna have
Have you
that
even tried?
drive to want to save your child?
Right.
And she's like, oh yeah, well, I probably could do the surgery, but I'm not gonna be the best surgeon. I'm not saying to be the best.
Right.
I'm just saying you could do it. So
Absolutely.
sorry for my rant, but
That's
I
a good
feel like
point.
it all
That's a good
tied
point
in, man.
too. Like we don't have to. We have this mentality of, oh, it's you have to be the best. Like we
Hmm.
have that culture of who's on top, who's the greatest. And the thing is,
Right.
we don't have to do everything we do perfectly.
Right. And the thing is too, in society, especially I know we're on YouTube, so it's international. So everybody, we get everybody from all over the world. But the
Hmm.
US is notorious for not wanting to do the work. Like we always want to, like we see something. She's like, "Oh, why don't you know how to play a guitar?" I was like, "Because I didn't want to do the beginning part of it,
Hmm.
which is actually picking it up and start flicking and sounding horrible. Like I want to jump to the end, right?
Right.
And that's how most people are. They want to jump to the end and be, perfect at the end. They don't want to put in the work.
Hmm.
But could I learn how to play a guitar? Of course I could, if I
Yeah.
had that dedication and that drive to do it.
And honestly, that's a good analogy in life because you're not just going to wake up someday and magically be this person that you want to be.
Right. But you
You
will.
have
But
to practice it every day. If you want to be a
you
healthy person, try and practice that every day. If you want to, be a goal oriented person, work towards that. You have to create yourself. You can't just hope and pray, like, oh, maybe tomorrow I'm going to be that person.
but you say that, but that's how it is, though. In a way, it's somewhat like that. Like if you practicing for 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, and you're like, I can't get this, but you keep at it, you keep at it, keep at it, and then one day you wake up and you're like, oh shit, I got this. Because
Yeah.
then that muscle memory starts to kick in. I'm going by the example of playing the guitar. Like it
Hmm.
just kicks in, and you're like, oh shit, I could do half this song.
Right.
And it just randomly happens on a Tuesday because you've been practicing for so long.
Hmm.
But you still got to have that dedication and the drive to keep on going.
Yeah. And you definitely have to know where you're going.
Right.
Because a lot of times what we do is we become complacent in life. After high school, we're like, well, what are we going to do? We're going to go to college or we're going to get a job. And then you just kind of get a tunnel vision of this. And that's
Yeah.
just what you do. You're putting out fires. You're giving your attention to whatever is demanding your
Hmm.
attention at the moment. And we kind of have to learn how to break through that so we can decide where we want to be in 10 years. Because 10
Hmm.
years fly by in the blink of an eye.
Right. Right. And
Like here we
what
are in November. It's about to be December of
I know. I was
another
talking about this with
year.
Mom the other day. I was like, Mom, the year went by so quick. We're already in the
Yes.
holidays. It's like it's so crazy how quickly. And you're right. The time goes by fast.
Mhm.
Being a father, I see it in my kids.
Yeah.
Because I'm like my youngest. I'm like, oh my god, he's about to be 10. I'm like, look, kids, slow down.
Hmm.
And then I realized, oh shit, 10 years has went by. And
Yes.
so it's like you get so caught up in the day to day that you forget, like, I need to take a time to do what it is that is my drive or my goal or whatever it may be. And so there was this one YouTuber that I used to watch that I forgot who it was, but I'm gonna if I remember his name, I'll give him a shout out. But um, he used to, like, every time someone would complain, oh, I don't have time to do that, or oh, this, he would always stop and break down their day, and he would be
Hmm.
like, okay, so how many hours do you work? And they're, oh, I work 8 hours. Okay, eight
Okay.
hours. And then he was like, all right, and how many hours do you sleep? Oh, I sleep 8 hours. And he's like, okay, so that's 16 hours out of a 24-hour day.
Hmm.
what are you doing with the rest of that time?
Right. And
And
most
then that's
people,
when
they can't even
they
answer.
don't,
They
they
can't even
can't,
answer
they
because
can't.
what you do is whatever demands your attention is where your attention is
Mhm.
going to go.
Right,
Unless you have like a plan and you say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing," that you're just going to follow whatever, is kind of popping up.
right,
Whether that's
right.
the
You're in
kids
the wind.
demanding something or is it just like your stomach is demanding something? Like there's always something that's just going to be like, "Hey, I need your attention. You need to do this. You need to take care of that."
Right, right, right. So going to some of Fuzz's comments as we were on it, thank you Fuzz for always supporting us. Thank you so much. Even man, he
Yes,
was asked to take it like a whole week
welcome.
off. He came back and he's like, oh, right on point. But he said, that's BS. Oppression Olympics. I 100% agree. He said, we have a woe is me society. I
Mhm.
100% agree. He said also college makes you dumber. And I don't know if college makes you dumber
Mm,
to a certain extent. I think college makes you more when you, and I told her that and she got mad. She was like, oh, none of my college had any of this. I was like, you can't see it. But I think college
right.
makes you more of more in your feels.
Mhm.
Like that's college is what programs you to have this victim mentality and
Mm.
always have this like, oh, I can't do anything unless I have to go to college because that's the narrative, right? That's
Mhm.
the narrative. Unless you go to college, you're going to be unsuccessful. And I
Right.
told her, what are you talking about? I was like, look at Steve Jobs. He did that out of his garage.
Mhm.
Michael Dell Computers out of his garage. I was like, there's
Right.
so many people who just has this great idea. I mean, freaking, as much as I don't like the guy, but the Facebook dude, he dropped out of Harvard.
Mhm.
You know,
We have
Zuckerberg, he
to
dropped
Zimmerman?
no Zuckerberg,
Zuckerberg. All right.
he dropped out of Harvard, right? And
Mhm.
sure enough, like at Facebook, his motivation was to get laid. Where he was like, what he was rating the women in Harvard, right? And that was the start of Facebook.
Mhm.
But I mean, he dropped out of Harvard when he saw that there was lightning in a bottle right now, right?
Right.
So it's like you could hate at the billionaires all you want, but the reason why you're hating on them is because of your own insecurities and your own lacking.
Mhm.
You could be that. You just need that great idea.
Yeah. You need
You
a
just
great
need to
idea,
be
and
that
you
disruptor.
also need the discipline. You need to
Right.
be able to, put in that work so that you can have that end result that
Right.
we
Right.
also desperately want. We so desperately say, "Oh, that's our dream.
And
That's what we
once
want."
again, we want that end goal to be the
Mhm.
billionaire. And when we don't have it in our day-to-day lives, we despise them, right? We don't like them. We're
Right.
like, why nobody should have that kind of money? Then what's the point of doing anything in life, right? It's like we have a class system because that's supposed to motivate you and incentivize you to chase after that.
Mhm.
It's like when you're a little kid, right? The only thing that you really have is like you have this active imagination because you're just a kid, right?
Mhm.
So you're just like you see the world in wonders. But when you get older and you get more jaded, what's the one thing that keeps you having those dreams? Those rewards, right? The trinkets, right?
Mhm.
Those dollars, right? The shekels, right? The monies, right? That's what keeps you motivated to want to be that billionaire, and then have the dreams like you did when you were a kid.
Right.
Like I want to have a big ass house with a water park. Well, you can only do that when you're a billionaire, right?
Fuzz
So
says, "I eat, sleep, dream YouTube."
as long as it's making you money, go ahead. So what's our topic again? Because I feel like we went on the rant, and I'm hoping that we're staying, on
I
that
feel like
on the
we
path
are. We are
there.
absolutely staying on topic. So our topic is, practice being the person you want to be. And that's the thing. Being the person you want to be takes practice. And you also
It
have
does.
to you have to be kind to yourself along the way, It's not easy to lose weight. It's not
Mm-hmm.
easy to make your marriage work. It's not
Right.
easy, to take care of all your responsibilities day to day to day. But as long as you're making slow, steady progress, then that's it. You're making that progress.
You will get
You're
rewarded. Yes.
working towards
Right.
that goal.
And what I also heard too, and it is somewhat true. Is like don't try to give yourself big goals because then you'll get really frustrated really fast when you don't achieve those big goals. Give yourself
Mhm.
little rewards. Little rewards adds up, And so
Yep.
day to day, be like, man, you know, I I don't know. I didn't eat this today, right? And be like, I'm trying to cut out sugar or something, and then just go be like, all right, I have no sugar today, and then realize, oh, okay, I didn't have no sugar today,
Hmm.
or something like that. Just like little tiny little things that adds up to your bigger goal.
Right.
But I also think that you gotta be people gotta be more honest with themselves and be
Hmm.
more congruent with themselves and be like, and this is crazy because I heard something the other day where they were saying that like 90% of people do not have, and I don't know how they could judge this or research this or even like really come up with these stats, but they were saying that like 90% of people do not have that internal monologue.
Hmm.
I'm like, what are you talking about? I have that shit all the time. I feel like everybody has that. I'm like,
Wait, what do you
whatever.
mean by the internal monologue? Like just the being able to work things out with yourself?
Yeah, like have that internal like conversation with yourself, or
Hmm.
even talking out loud, like talking to yourself and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
I'm like, man,
90% of people don't do that?
yeah. So what they're trying to say is like 90% of people are just NPCs, just walk around. And this is the reason why they could be filled with whatever idea or ideology that is being promoted at the time, because they're not having that internal dialogue in their head.
Hmm.
And I'm like, that's crazy because
So
I do that all the time.
the average person has like 60,000 thoughts a day.
But they're not
So if we all
debating, they're
have
not have
these
conversing,
crazy
they're not
thoughts
having
just
that.
running around in our head,
Yeah. So whatever their mind is tuned to whatever idea pops in. And they're not just like talking. They're not like, hey, remember what you said about that? Remember
mhm,
why you couldn't do that? Do you know why? And it's like I do that shit all the time. Like I'm like, yo, um, what keeps me up at night, be it like something that gets me excited or something that got me stressed or worried, like I'm doing that monologue all the time. I'm like,
right?
how's people not doing that? And maybe
Hmm.
that's where people need to start is having that conversation with thyself and understand, like, listen, at the end of the day, you're always going to be congruent to who you are. You got to be congruent to who you are.
Hmm.
So if you're trying to like chase after a facade, fake it till you make it, maybe that's not the best idea to put out there. I know it works for some people,
Hmm.
but for the most part, be honest with yourself,
Hmm.
right? Be honest with yourself and say, hey, I don't know how to do this yet.
Hmm.
And be like, all right, what's it going to take for me to do it?
That's what I'm teaching my kids. Like, I like read it years ago on some like Pinterest thing or something, but it was like, oh yeah, when your kids like have that negative self-talk that I can't do it, teach them to say I can't do it yet.
Yes.
And so it's something I've, worked on throughout the years to like teach that to my children because like just that simple switch, it opens so
Hmm.
many doors.
It
Because you
is. It
go
is.
from believing that you can't do something to believing that you just have to keep working towards something.
Yes. And that goes back to the whole, once again, that conversation that I had with my friend
Mhm,
where she really sees the world in a negative way.
mhm,
Like she doesn't want to be pessimistic because I still feel like, she's very liberal, so she's very bleeding heart and she
mhm,
wants to help. But I'm like, but you're so negative. So
hmm,
you're always going to come out attacking. You're always going to blame something else. You're never really going to take any kind of action because you only see the negative parts in life.
mhm,
It's like you don't really see your own blessings. You don't even see that the glass is half full and it could be better. It's like
right.
the people who keep saying like, oh, now it's not the time to have kids.
Mhm,
The world is a horrible place to have kids now. I'm like, what are you talking about? We gotta have kids. They gotta take on, and take on the world. You're just gonna stop? The human race is gonna stop because we're bad at this point?
I
Because we're
don't
still
know, man. I'm
evolving?
hearing mixed reviews. I'm hearing from some people that like we've already passed like our it was like a tipping point with the greenhouse gases. That's it. Our Earth's no
Man,
longer
they've been
going to be
saying that since the
sustainable.
70s.
But I'm also hearing like, oh, our population isn't big enough. We have to keep popping out babies. Like, which is it? Are we lacking in population? Do we have too many people? What the hell is going on?
It's all, listen. It's all you got to realize. All you can't take any. You got to take all the stuff that's being told to you with a grain of salt. And
Mm-hmm.
when you actually do some research, it wasn't like during Obama's term. They were saying like we only had 8 years or something. It's been 12 years later. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, if we don't change course now, yet these guys are all buying waterfront property in Miami, right?
Mm-hmm.
When the ocean is supposed to be rising and Miami, Florida is going to be gone, and they're all buying it. So it's just you got to tune out all that noise, man. And but once again, this is what people, what you say. If you don't stand for something, you're gonna fall for anything,
Fall
right?
for
So these
anything. Yeah.
people hear this and they're like, I have no purpose, I have no self, I need to jump on this.
Hmm.
And it's like, whoa, whoa,
And
whoa,
that's
wait,
what we
whoa.
saw. That's what we saw too with all the isms and all
Yes, and it's still going
the
on.
different things that were popping up, the different movements for people to get behind. They didn't have their
Right,
own. They didn't have their own voice. So they were able
right.
to find something that they were able to relate to. They jumped onto that, and they just created more division. Fuzz's comments are coming in. People who are easily influenced by propaganda are from families with poor parenting.
I would disagree because I feel like man, I question everything. And we grew up poor. I
No,
told,
I don't think he meant poor as in like your status.
poor
He
in the
meant
mindset.
poor, yeah, a poor parenting, not good parenting.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I would. Okay, in that sense, then I would agree because
Mhm.
I do like she was trying to get at the fact that like, oh, that I was a product of my environment and that it was because of ma. And
Mhm.
I was like, don't get me wrong. Listen, I was blessed in the sense that we had loving parents, right? We had a
Mhm.
loving home. Thankfully, we weren't molested or anything. We had a mother who loved us, who gave those reaffirmations, right?
Mhm.
But in the same sense, I know I hear stories of people who still make it and they didn't have that growing up. Like
Mhm.
the other day, I saw the what was it, the Hulu biography, the dramatization of Mike Tyson, right?
Okay.
And he was like, man, he was running these streets, and because somebody came along in his life and kind of believed in it, he started believing in himself, right?
Mhm.
But he still didn't have the parents. He still didn't have all that. He didn't. He was a product of the streets. And he ended up, yeah, people took advantage of him. Yeah, he was an asshole. Yeah, he did some bad stuff. Yeah, if you say something to his face, he'll punch you in the face. Of course, I'm not saying he's a role model. I'm
Shit.
just saying he is definitely um, disruptor of this narrative that if you grew up poor or if you don't have a loving family or if you're this and this, you're gonna be this, right?
Mhm.
He didn't have everything stacked up for him growing up and he disrupted, right? And once again, if he could do it, any one of us can do it, right?
Yeah.
What kept him different? And he was in and out of prison, right? At like 12, according to this like TV show, right? So it's like, what kept him going?
Mhm.
He just kept working out. He like punching people out. He was doing what he loved, right? So I
Jesus.
just it goes back to having that drive and that passion,
Mhm.
and you got to be honest with yourself. You got to be congruent with who you are. You could try
And
to
I mean,
fill a
I think
facade, but
so. I think maybe Mike Tyson's one of those that's like kind of just an oddball out. That's the
is he though?
not the norm. That's the whatever the hell it is, the opposite of the norm. Um because I think, poor parenting absolutely influences who you are as an adult.
Is
I
it
feel as though,
though, or is it the
and you know
self and
what?
the individual?
Maybe not parenting per se, because it can be a teacher, it can be somebody in your community, but it's somebody within your upbringing. I'm going to use instead of parenting, somebody
Mhm.
in your upbringing instills that drive into you that you can be anything. They do
Yeah.
open up that door, and they create that open mind for you.
I don't know because I like once again like I'm in men's community, right? And it's men's helping other men, understand giving because we do have a serious problem in our day and age where we live in a fatherless society, right?
Mhm.
So it's like we need more male mentors to say, hey, reach out to the younger guy and try to help him up because we don't really have that masculine guidance growing up, right?
Mhm.
And but a lot of these guys, man, they tell me like, yo, that I hated my family. I joined the military almost like a self-loathing thing, right? Almost like I wished I died because of my upbringings, right? But then the military got me like jacked, and then I started going to all these places, and I had all these interaction with women
Mhm.
that gassed up my ego, that made me feel like I was the shit, right? Because I was desirable.
Hmm.
So it's like, is it really like, are you a product of your environment, or is it that once you do? Because once again, they're in the military, they were working out, they were jacked, they were all this,
Mhm.
right? So it's like, if you put in the work, people will acknowledge that.
Mhm.
I don't know. I still think there's so much different. Like I could give you so many stories because I love hearing these stories. Look at Harry Potter.
Mhm.
The lady who wrote Harry Potter, she was living in her car.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the other boxer who was homeless, started boxing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even I looked at the stats of like the highest paid like athletes, right? And I believe this year, soccer player, basketball player, but I think the year before, or not the year before, or maybe 2 years ago, it was Mayweather, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another boxer. He
Boxer.
says
Yeah.
he'll admit he's like, I can't even read,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like the most paid athlete in the world. So I don't know. Once again, I say like it's all in your head. It's all perspective.
Hmm.
And then of course, the bleeding hearts will be like, why should these people get paid the way they get paid? And I was like, because they're one of a kind. And they're all teachers should get paid that. Teachers are a dime a dozen. And as we can see, a lot of more parents are like, yo, I want to homeschool my kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're walking away from that because you're buying into this ideology that people don't want to believe in. I don't want to have that sense that you're telling me I'm limited because of the color of my skin, or I'm limited. Like I would hate to believe that you can't do what you want to do then because you're a woman, or because you're Hispanic, or because I don't want to hear none of those narratives.
Mm-hmm.
I love to think like, man, I could be this guy if I put in the effort. Like I'm like, man, I would love to be in movies, but I'll be honest with myself. If I me and get, I don't think I could do the audition. I would get nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Like my nerves will overtake me, and I wouldn't be able to do a good audition. But I would love to be in movies. You know, you know. That's the narrative. Like so, that's the difference between me and like I don't know. Name an actor. I can't think of any right now. Like a Matt Damon or something. He just went in the room and he was like, "Yo, I'm gonna do this. I want to be an actor."
Mm-hmm.
He had that perseverance. And you gonna tell me he didn't get nervous in his first audition? Of course he did.
Right.
But he had the perseverance to get over that.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Try again. Take a couple
Right.
no's. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
No
Yeah,
matter
exactly. That's
what.
another thing. Take it like those L's that he took to keep on going. Like if I did an audition, that first L, I'll be like, nah, I'm done. I'm done. Acting's not for me.
I tried.
You only tried once. You only tried once. Or even worse, all the dud movies. Like, have you ever went back and saw like an actor's first movie?
Yes.
Like some low budget,
Yes.
no
It's like,
name,
dude, this
but
is
it's Jim
awful. It's
Carrey,
cringeworthy. Yep.
cringy, yep. And
Yep.
they're like, how did he kept going after this? Because he knew. He was like, yo, this is growing pains. This is me putting in the work.
Right.
So yes, do I believe any one of us could be an actor? Yes.
Absolutely.
But is any one of us going to have that drive? No. So do they deserve to make that kind of money? Yes, because they had that drive to be that.
Mm.
They didn't take a cop out and said, hey, I'm going to go to college and do whatever everybody else is doing and hope that I get something.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what most people do. They're like, I'm going to go. I don't even.
Yeah, I have a magnet on my fridge that's like, oh, failure is an option. In fact, it's the most chosen option.
Right. And don't get mad. Don't blame everybody else when you decided to fail.
Right. Right. You are
like
completely in control of this life of yours.
Yeah, it's the worst ones when they go and they're like, what are you doing? Oh, I don't know. Why are you here then? Why are you wasting money here? Why are you wasting your parents' money? Why are you wasting yourself getting in debt? Why are you here? I'm going for liberal arts. I'm going for liberal arts.
Honestly, that's where it comes from. It comes from these expectations. And it's something that we all do. We all have these, imaginary expectations in our mind about what society believes we're supposed to do, about what our parents believe we're supposed to do, about what, we're always worried about like, oh, how are these people going to perceive me? How is that person going to, think about this action here?
Honestly, I believe it's because people don't want to be held accountable. They want to make excuses. So they're like, oh, well, I need to get a degree to make it in life. That's the mantra. You got to get it. I'm like, so you got to tell me you never met a mechanic, you never met a plumber, you never met I don't know, name something, an electrician, you never met any of those guys. Shit, the guy who waves the flag at a construction site makes more than a teacher. Sadly to say. And some of those guys just sit around doing nothing, and they're making like overtime because they're working at night on the side of a highway. So you're gonna tell me you never met any of those guys who don't have a degree? And once again, I had to read a book to kind of put me in that perspective. But it's almost like it's blatantly obvious that you don't get yourself in debt You do something that's in high demand. Everybody has a car, right? For the most part, most people got cars and they need
Mm-hmm.
repairs. Be a mechanic, save your money, don't get yourself in debt. And before you know it, you could be a millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
That's reality. But people don't think like that. They
No.
just go with the narrative. You got to go to school and you got to do this. And, oh, but school's astronomical, expensive and shit. And I'm like, the only thing that I think, that I, going back and forth talking to her, that I would say with this whole school thing is like there should be a law where it says your degree cannot cost any more than the average of what that salary is.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Mm,
if the average salary is 40K, then your degree should be 40K.
right.
That's the only thing. That's the only thing I would say. Like if you're going for a certain degree, it should not cost any more than what your average salary is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are other places in the world where you don't even have to pay to go to college.
Granted, but they also pay a lot of tax. She did bring that up. She was like, "Oh, what about countries that have free healthcare and free college?" And I was like, "Yeah, the taxes is almost like 60%. You want to pay that much taxes?
Hell no.
Especially when you're the one that thought outside the box and did it."
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I want to pay that. Not,
And I mean,
especially
there's other layers to it too. Like we are going a lot into, like the financial gains of being who you want to be, but there's other things too. If you have a huge heart and you just love cats, practice being a cat lover. If you want to, I don't know, if you want to start a movement for ice cream, do that. It doesn't matter. The fact is, like, you have to find what your passions are. If you want to be a good person, you have to practice being a good person.
right. But with going back to the whole cat like narrative, it's like you could start with grants,
Mm-hmm.
right? You could say, "Hey, I'm building up a shelter or something," and then maybe do like a pivot over to like breeding. And if you start breeding these like cats that, once again, supply and demand are in
Mm-hmm.
limited supply, that are in high demand by wealthy people, you too will be rich when you
Yeah.
put yourself around rich people. It's like you can get a cut. They love to spend money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a story, like you hear the stories of like the doorman who retired in 10 years because he was working the door on like a very expensive building in New York City, and
Mm-hmm.
every Christmas he was getting tipped 100 $200,000, so he was putting that away, and before you knew it 5 10 years of working there, he retired.
Right.
Surround yourself around money. One of the things I tell my kids is because my oldest, he's heeding what I'm, he's taking my words, he's hearing what I'm saying, and he's like, all right, I want to, he's around family that are painting homes.
Mm-hmm.
And so he sees the money, he sees the labor, he sees the money, he's putting two and two together. And he's like, this is what I want to do. I'm not a school person, I'm not a book person. I want to do that. I'm
That's
just going to do
amazing. He
this.
can have a little van, have a little painting
Yeah,
business. Boom.
exactly. And then I told him, I was like, take it one step further.
Mm-hmm.
Find yourself, an area, research it, an area where the medium income is high.
Mm-hmm.
So now you could jack up your prices.
Yeah. And that's another layer that I wouldn't even thought to like present to him, Show me your friends,
Exactly.
I'll show you your future.
Exactly.
Yeah. They say you are a combination of like the 5 closest people to you.
Yeah. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
You're in the wrong room. Yeah.
And if you're the richest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. Mm-hmm. I'm talking to you, Tim Pool. That's in both sense. I just fucking around. I like Tim Pool. It's just because
plus free college overseas are competitive, and now all kids get in.
Exactly. And why do you want to compete in that? Like, all right, so going back to my whole narrative of supply and demand, right? So it's a limited supply for that college. It's in high demand because they want to get into all these Ivy Leagues and be CEOs and all that. When once again, you can have a decent salary, a decent lifestyle if you just went and said, I want to work on cars.
Mm-hmm.
And then what about the guys who take it one step further? I mean, there was a little TV show on Discovery where guys were working on their bikes, right? Was it Orange County Choppers right around us, right? Now they have a restaurant, they have a freaking souvenir shop, they have
a museum, they have everything in there.
6 Seasons, and it was just because they were just a chop shop, right? They were just working on choppers. They were doing custom choppers. So I guarantee they all want, the father probably just started working on bikes because he was
Mhm.
like, I have nothing else to do. And then eventually, he was like, I got to do something with my life. I'm going to start repairing bikes. And then eventually he got good to the point where he was like, I can custom make bikes. Right? And then word of mouth got out or something. And before you knew it, boom, you
Yeah.
got all this stuff. So it's like you said, if you like taking care of cats, we live in the age of social media. Why not put a camera in front of you taking care of your cats? Start a
Mhm.
cat channel. And the passion will come through and people will gravitate to that. Like,
Right.
man, I really like your cat. And there are channels like that because there are, my youngest loves seeing all the animals.
Mhm.
So I have that feed in my YouTube sometimes, and they'll
Yep.
show a puppy and they're like, hey, comment down below if you want to, adopt a puppy.
Mhm.
So they'll show the little video, or they'll tell the rescue story of him, and it's like a little tear jerking. And then they're like, "Hey, if you want to adopt the little guy, you know, here's the link, here's the information."
Yeah.
And they got to start somewhere with that, right? So I don't know. It's like once again, if you just have a very optimistic outlook in life and see the glass is half full,
Mhm.
then I think just that mindset alone will set you off on the right path to be able to do what it is that you want in life.
Mhm.
Now, I'm always optimistic. No, I'm telling you, there wasn't not last week, but the week before, offline, we were supposed to have our Thursday show, and I was really bummed with all the copyright strikes and all the things that we were getting hit on. I was like, I want out of this. And talking to Lynn, right? You got to have the right people in your circle, of course, to keep you motivated. Or
Mhm.
sometimes you have that internal monologue to keep yourself motivated. But it's like you gotta have the right mindset. You gotta have that right mindset, man. And it's sad that I see everybody looking around and I'm like, man, do you see your blessings?
Mhm.
Like your blessings. I see her, like she's married. I'm like, you have a great marriage. You have two great healthy kids. You live in a great home. You have a great job. Like you paid off all your debt. Most people can't say that. And
Yeah.
you still see life in a very pessimistic way. And I don't know.
And
It
that could
hurts.
also
It
be
hurts seeing like that.
just what she's choosing to consume,
Yeah.
and she just could just be, spitting back out what it is that she's always listening to, what she's always hearing,
I
everything that's
want to,
around
yes,
her.
you're right. The
Verse
propaganda that is out there.
verse actually
Yes.
kind of like shutting the screen off and take in what it is that she has around her.
I 100% agree with you, Lynn. Yes. You're 100% correct.
Hmm.
And it's sad because it's like they feed off of that. Like they feed like,
Yeah.
no, I can't. Maybe, you know what? Another thing too is I think I know it's here in the States, but we tend to have this sense of like how do I say it? It's almost like we take gratification in feeling guilty. Some people do.
Mm.
Some people do. And I don't understand why. And it only works with Americans. And it's like I saw it like with the World Cup. Today I was watching. Team USA, go USA. We won.
Yeah.
But before they played Iran, right? And I gotta say it the right way because the reporter called our team captain out for it. She asked them a question, and what would you think the question should have been? It's the World Cup, right? World Cup
Mhm.
soccer, right? What do you think a really good question would have been? Anything, just anything, like just say something, anything.
But who am I asking a question to? What do you mean? Asking a question to like a
The
player?
team captain,
Oh,
team
team
captain
captain.
of
All right.
the U.S. team, the team captain on the U.S. team.
Mhm.
What would you have asked them?
Hmm. How did you
She's
get
on the
here?
world,
What inspired your team? What kept your team together throughout the
right?
season?
Or
Something.
what's your strategy to beat the next team?
Yeah,
How
what do
does
we
it feel
do?
to be at the World Cup? All
Hmm.
this, right? No, she asked her, how do you feel about representing America, who's racist and BLM and all this stuff? Yeah, that was the question. That was the question. And I'm
Okay.
like, you only ask that question because once again, Americans, for whatever reason, we will play that game.
Mm.
We are perpetually in a state of guilt. But I guarantee you wouldn't ask that question to Iran or the Iran
No,
or Iranian players, right?
exactly what it is. Politics are the new religion. We'll eat it up. Well, what was the
Yeah.
answer?
Oh, he did. He danced it very well. He was like,
Okay.
you know, there's what he said. There was I forgot what he said, but I really enjoyed it. He was like, listen, this is everywhere.
Okay.
But you know, America has been making strides, and you know, he apologized. He was like, I apologize for mispronouncing the country's name. You know, once again, this is the ignorance of from myself and everybody else, but through by conversation, and he's like, America's making strides. But I'm like, he shouldn't have to ask that question.
Right.
It's like it's the World Cup. You should ask him, hey, well, what do you think about your team, or what's your
Mhm.
strategy, what's your game plan, or what's something like that. We talk about soccer. I just I don't know. I don't know. And it's like I think that goes down that stems to every individual. It's like we're it's almost like people are guilty or feel guilty because they are successful.
Mhm.
And so they want to be in this whole like, oh, woe is, that whole victim mentality.
Hmm.
And I hate it. I hate it because it's like, no, you're an individual.
Mhm.
Applaud your accomplishments, right? And take notice of the things you got to fix. And as an individual, be you.
Yeah.
Shine, man.
Which is hard to say when we are living in a cancel culture society right now, where
Yeah,
when
I
you
know.
do like stick
I
out like a
know.
sore thumb, it's like, ooh, can't do that anymore.
No.
It's like
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not entitled to an opinion. You're only entitled to kind of regurgitating everything else that everyone else is saying. If
I'm
everyone's
going back
talking
to
about it, it's good. We can talk about it too.
going back to the team captain though. He was
Mhm.
black. So I'm like, is the reporter racist for asking him that question? Like that reverse thing? Like, why would you ask him that question? Because
What
he's
about
black?
BLM? How you feeling?
But he was actually raised in a mixed family. So I
Mm,
guess she wasn't expecting that because he was like, look, it's everywhere. Being traveling all over the world, it's everywhere. And congratulations on the United States for making strides and trying to be better. But that's like the mantra we should all have anyway as individuals. We should always strive to be better than who we were yesterday.
mhm.
And that's America. Like, hey, is America racist? Yeah, if you want to look that way, but we are better than we were back in the 1920s,
Right.
right? It's like, do we not get any kind of kudos?
Oh, so Fuzz is bringing up crypto. I don't want to talk about crypto. That's a pain subject right there. What is it? A pain point? A hot
It
topic right
is,
now?
but it's listen, it hurts. It hurts because you stayed in.
That's
Like
true.
I got
That's
cash
true.
waiting on the side, ready to
Uh-huh.
buy. So I'm ready for the prices to keep going down.
Mm. See, that's where
I'm
I'm at
like,
too. I mean, I didn't pull out, but I do have cash waiting. Like, I know.
yeah.
I just have to
I,
see.
I'm
I have to
I'm
get it in the right
I'm
time.
I'm right there. I have still, my foot. I have one foot in,
Hmm.
right? In case it takes off at any minute. I'm like, all right, I'm still holding something, and I have cash ready to say if it dips to a certain price that I'm looking for,
Hmm.
I'll buy right in. Yeah, but Fuzz said FTX collapsed 4 times bigger than Enron. Yeah, but you know what? Enron survived. The rest of everything else survived. I feel like crypto will survive. If you are scared, at least buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin's been around for the longest time, right?
Hmm.
If you're scared, buy Bitcoin. But I feel like I have this is like for a topic for a different day and a different show because there's so much politics involved with FTX that it is what it is. I wasn't involved. I'm sorry for people who lost their money. I've lost money. I got scammed in crypto. Do I
Hmm.
give up on crypto? No, I don't. I've seen it. I've listened. My portfolio has been up twice, where I should have cashed out twice.
Hmm.
I didn't, and I will continue to buy in because to me, once again, I'm optimistic. I have that positive outlook with crypto, and I think that's the only thing that us as regular people, this is the next dot com boom.
Hmm.
You know, if you think about, you hear all the stories of the people who bought Apple back in the day and now they're ridiculously rich, right? Or they bought, you know, the different, the right, like Amazon, right? Like they saw, but there's also people who bought, you know, shitty ass .com websites back in the 2000s and they lost all their money. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like you gotta play it smart with crypto and be careful. Don't put anything in that you're not willing to lose.
Right.
But I'm 100%. I believe in it. I believe in it. Am I nervous? Hell yeah, I'm nervous. I still got money out there. I'm like, oh shit. I moved some money today. I was like, yo, let me move some money around.
Waiting for Bitcoin to dip under 6 grand to dip my toes.
I think I don't know if it's gonna hit 6. I would definitely. It's probably gonna hit 10 because that's where everybody says it's going. If it's a panic sell, it probably might even touch 9. But even then, that's a fire sale, my guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's dirt cheap compared to where it was last year. At this time last year, it was at 60, what, 60, almost 70 grand. So, and
And
will it
I
go
feel
up?
like it
It's
is
in
gonna
waves.
head back that way. I think that crypto, it's been around for a while, since like the early 2000s, right? Like 2000, I think it was
What
'02.
the first financial crash that happened in 2008, and
Mhm.
then Bitcoin came out in 2009.
Okay, so '09. And like it hadn't really had it was making buzzes here and there, but it didn't really have a lot of attention. And like right now it's like center stage. And
Mm-hmm.
especially going into this whole like US like coin shortage and everything, like everything is going towards a digital currency. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like cryptocurrency is the future, because especially with the way things are going in the US right now, everyone's looking at the US and the dollar and yada, yada, yada. But the fact is that our dollar can collapse.
It can, and that's the reason why. And I don't have any proof. It's just my hunch. This is the reason why we're pumping so much into other countries,
Hmm.
right? Because if we give you so much of something that we say is valued, right? Now you're gonna have this. Now you're gonna want to use it,
Hmm.
and you're gonna be like, hey, but you said this has value, right? So I think that's the reason why we're giving so much to Ukraine. Is the reason why we're giving to all these different countries, because there is competition out there,
Hmm.
especially when we sanction the shit out of Russia, right? Are they aligning and saying, hey, we can't use the US dollar? Okay, we're gonna use our own dollar. And we're backing it by oil. So, there's competition. There's competition in crypto too.
Hmm.
A lot of these sanctions were, bypassed through crypto. So I things have value because we say it has value, right?
Hmm.
Right. Look at Tesla stocks. This was another thing that we had a conversation. Tesla stocks right now are dropping because of stupid people, not because they're not meeting the product or the product's not working. No, it's because people are stuck in their fields and they don't like Elon Musk,
Hmm.
right? And so because they don't like Elon Musk, they're going against the fact that um, uh, Tesla stocks are like hand over fist, like constantly making money. I mean, if you get on the waiting list right now for a Tesla, it's like 2 years,
Hmm.
right? But people are stuck in their fields. So once again, it has value, or the stock is losing value because people say it's losing value,
Right.
not because of what the company's doing. So, will crypto go up? Yes, it'll go up. It'll go back up.
Exactly. It's not going anywhere. Crypto's here to
Stocks
stay.
are going down too. Stocks are going down too. So it's just
Right.
the market right now. But you want the markets to do this. You should get scared when it just does this, because then it's gonna do this. And
Oh, we
you're
can't
gonna
see
be
you.
on
It's
the
off
other end when it goes
screen.
down. Like
Keep
you
your hand
want them, all
gestures
right. You want the
closer.
market to do this, up and down, up and down. That's healthy. If it goes skyrocket up, you should be really scared because it's gonna go right back down.
What goes up must come down.
Right. But if it's like a roller coaster, up and down, up and down, up and down, that's healthy. That's a healthy market.
Hmm.
And Bitcoin's been doing that. Yes, it's been really expansive in the beginning. Like it shot up and then came back down, and shot up and get back down. But it's starting to it was going like this in the beginning, but now it's like kind of
It's getting
coming
smaller.
to,
That hump
it's
is
getting
getting
smaller.
smaller.
So those gains are going to be smaller moving forward as more people buy into it.
Hmm.
But it's still, man, it's still early. I feel like Bitcoin is like where the internet was back in like the 90s. That's
Hmm.
where crypto is. Like wait till like other banks do. Wait till like our mother buys. Like she one day she's like, oh, I bought some Bitcoin. Then we made it.
Ma was, oh man, I gotta let you know real quick. So Ma was a little hurt the other day
Why?
because she figured out how to send you money through her phone. Did it all by herself. And then you shot her a text and was like, tell Lynn I said thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she was all but hurt. I happened to go over that
And
day.
that's,
She was like,
listen,
do
that's
you know
on
what your brother did?
her. That's on her. Because once again, that's a victory. If you literally did do something that broke, like you went against what your norm is and you were able to accomplish something, then you should have that own self-confidence. She don't need my kudos.
Right.
Who am I? Yeah, I know I'm her son, but still, you don't need my kudos.
Yeah,
Kudos
she was
yourself.
like, oh, hell no.
I know, she told me. She told me. She's like, you hurt my feelings and you made me cry. And I was like, you're too sensitive.
Oh, Lord, she cried about it? I didn't know she cried about it.
Yeah. And then I told her and her friend, I was like, y'all two are, because I think somebody came over and they started crying. They were like, yeah, they haven't seen each other. I'm like, that's for them to cry. Why are you two crying? It's like, oh, you're just cold. I'm like, no, I'm saving my tears for when it really needs, when I really do need to cry.
Okay.
It's like, I don't get it. Like, I'm gonna cry for everything. Then what's the you're devaluing your emotions.
It's all the Disney music in the movies.
Yeah, I guess so. I even then, I like that has more meaning because at least somebody dies in one of those, or somebody's sick, or somebody gets hurt, or it's like you thought somebody died and they came back, and it's like a happy moment. uh, Yeah, and the only reason why the world, going to Fuzz's comment right here, the US
Oh.
dollar is bad, but the world views it as a safe haven. And the only
Mhm.
reason why the world is viewing it as a safe haven is because the US is pumping so much of it out to the world,
Mm.
right? All these billions that we're sending to Ukraine, Ukraine's going to want to use that,
Mhm.
right? All the billions we're sending elsewhere, they're going to want to use that. They're going to say, well, they gave us all these US dollars. So it's going to convince them to stay with the US dollar then instead of moving to something else.
Mhm.
Which I'm hearing there's an alternative. Like I think Russia, China, Brazil, Middle East, they're all looking together to create their own kind of dollar.
Currency. Yeah.
Yep. And then of course crypto. Crypto has value to listeners. Crypto is everywhere,
Mhm.
right? Cross borders.
Yeah, there are
So,
now ATMs. I've seen ATMs of them. They
mhm.
have just different platforms to be able to accept, cryptocurrencies as tender.
Yeah. Right. On that note, we're coming to the top of the hour. So
We are. So we're going to be cutting it off at an hour.
try to make the show
I'm
more
having like the
digestible.
live realization right now that below we say we're going to be 6 to 8, but we
Yeah,
will
we'll,
edit
we'll we'll
that.
change all that eventually. We're trying to change things around. We're trying to make it more digestible. See if we can get more people to watch, more eyeballs.
Yep.
Try to stay in key and stay in message. We're also going to try to stop using other people's content.
Yeah.
I think that's a big key thing because we're like trying to like use content. It's all under fair use as far as like using the content, making comments, doing reactions, all that stuff. But it seems like I don't know, for whatever the
It's
case
just
is,
giving them a
we're still getting
reason
flagged.
to pull down our
Right,
videos. So
right.
let's
So
go to
we're
that.
gonna go get back more in tune with our mantra, which is positivity, and we're here to help people. And like, see, that's my call to action. Because I don't want to do any of that corny shit that's on YouTube. I want to use YouTube for something more empowering.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll
Yeah.
see.
So through
We'll
our
see where it
show,
goes.
we aim to be givers. We're givers of love, we're givers of good vibes, and we're givers of strength through conversation. And that's what we want to keep sharing with you guys. And for those of you
Which is
that
really
keep
dope.
rocking with us, thank you.
Which is really dope because like my sister, like she's definitely like I guess she sent something that day. It was like what, 2 weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and like she came back and she was like, "Yo, I got two topics for you today,"
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "Perfect, perfect. Let's do that one Tuesday, Thursday. That's exactly
Yep.
where I want to go with it." Because I think we ended up with something, and I was like, "I'm not really feeling this. I don't want to do this corny shit. I know I don't want to be the like the I don't know what's the I want to be thought provoking. I don't want to be some like more meaningless like dribble that you're just consuming our content and it's just I don't know, it's just dumbing down, humans. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think that's the exact way you put it. You were like, I don't
Yeah.
want to just be dumb content.
Yeah, I don't. I don't want
You
to
don't
be
want to be
dumb content.
silly. You don't want to dumb people down. Like that's what
No.
we have, guys. This is our like ongoing
Yeah.
like mission statement.
And if we definitely don't, and listen, if we want to put out dumb content, we definitely got to be a lot shorter because the attention span on TikTok is
15
like
seconds.
goldfish attention span.
All right, guys, we love you so much. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Couch Show.
Fuzz and anybody else who's shadow watching, thank you so much for supporting us. I know you guys are clicking. I know, you guys are, you believe in us. We just gotta have that motivation to keep on going and just find our rhythm.
Yeah. So
But I think
find that positivity, look at that glass half full, and we will see you guys on Thursday.
peace.
Adios.
Hit the button, Lynn. What are you doing?
Little delay, but we're gone. Adios.
Hit the end button.